I'm Gabby's Jules. Blue skies over West London. What a weekend of football. So much going on. We had Liverpool winning that little thing we call the Premier League. We'll be talking about them in the second segment, not because it's not important, but because we kind of saw this one coming a mile away. But we also had the FA Cup semifinals. We have Bayern not winning the title, not this week anyway, in the Bundesliga. We have Inter dropping points at home to Uncle Claudio Ranieri. And the FA Cup semifinals as well. Did I mention that? Well, but we got to start with the Copa del Rey. Joseph, let me just come out and say this. There was so much tension before, and we will get to that, and we will analyze it, with what happened with the referee, Bengoechea, crying in the press conference, Real Madrid TV before that. Some of the footage that they put out, kind of, I guess, questioning his competence, if not his integrity. It was so poisonous going out onto the pitch. And in the end, while there were some big refereeing calls, and which we'll get to as well, I thought we saw a phenomenal game. Barcelona dominating the first half. Then it swung to Real Madrid. We saw some phenomenal bits of skill. And I have to give a shout out to, for me, the best player on the pitch was also the youngest player on the pitch. Yamal, especially that pass to Ferran Torres.
Yeah, amazing. I mean, even if the mistake by Courtois led to the goal, otherwise it would not have been probably not an assist from Lamine. But outstanding in two different styles, obviously. Still a very physical game, but Barcelona, as you would expect, with the ball and being so good with the two wingers. Real Madrid with Kylian Mbappe on the bench started that front four, the fantastic four, never actually playing together, which is probably why they were better in the second half once Mbappe was on the pitch. There was no Rodrigo. It was a little bit more balanced with Arda Güler as well. And maybe on another night, Real Madrid win it. Would they have deserved to win it? I'm not sure, but they certainly had a decent second half. But in the end...
Yeah, it could have gone either way, I think. But I think Barcelona are definitely worthy winners for all these. So remember, Barcelona also, without Balde and without Robert Lewandowski, balancing out the Mbappe situation. We understand he was banged up, didn't start the game as a result. And then when he came on, it was like flicking a light switch. All of a sudden,
absolutely.
They kind of murdered the high line. And Wojciech Szczesny, again, deserves a shout out. Made some really, really big saves as well. On the refereeing angle, look, I think most people, unless you're related to Florentino or just a monothematic Madridista, we've said it before, preemptively coming out and questioning somebody's integrity is just bizarro world. It's happened before. The fact Real Madrid were very upset by the fact that he cried before in that dramatic press conference on Friday, to the point that there were suggestions that they might try to get a different referee in for the game. In the end, we were all hoping to not have to talk about the referee, but we did, because he made a really, really big call. 6 minutes of injury time at the end of the 90. Raul Asensio on Rudiger, on Rafinha. He gives the penalty. VAR tells him to go and have another look, and he overturns the penalty and books Rafinha for diving. Correct decision?
Yeah, 100%. There's never any contact. And to be fair, I thought he was quick of giving it. But as soon as you see the replay, you could see that it's a dive. So
it's interesting, because certainly on the feed I was watching here in England, they were suggesting that. I mean, at first they said 100% penalty, and then you looked at it, and I think it was the right decision. I don't 100% know that you need to give a yellow for the dive. That might be the main sticking point. The other upshot of this, of course, is there is strong reporting suggesting that. Right. Initially, obviously, everybody tears their heads out. Oh, Ancelotti's good. It's being sacked as a matter of hours. No, it's not a matter of hours. Our understanding is he's going to stay until the end of the season. He may not stick around for the Club World Cup. Personally, if I'm Real Madrid, I think maybe that's a good thing. And I think if you're Ancelotti, that's a good thing. You look to me like a guy who needs time off. I mean, he got his booking 24 minutes into the game. This is not the Ancelotti I know, just his demeanor on the sidelines and whatever. Absolutely. And maybe if you can get your ducks in a row with the next Real Madrid manager, maybe having this guy take over for the Club World Cup assess the players, get an understanding, and then you have a whole transfer window in which to work. That might not be a bad thing. All right, let's break this down a little further, more. Actually, before we break it down further and highlight the positives, because it's Monday, we want some positivity here.
Positive.
Let's go further with Ancelotti and sort of the succession. A lot of people are taking it as read that he's going to be the next Brazil coach.
Yeah.
I haven't had confirmation of that, just for my part. It's kind of funny because there's the guy who supposedly works for the Brazilian FA, who was there in midweek at was a Getafe game, was it? And was at the Copa del Rey final as well. Brazilian FA saying, "Oh no, that guy doesn't work for us. He doesn't represent us." Whoever that guy is, he's there, and people are adding fuel to the fire that a deal is in the works. I was struck though by sort of some of the body language between Ancelotti and Florentino after the game. Okay, Florentino obviously pretty muted at the best of times, but my understanding is that whatever's happened, or certainly the picture that I see from Florentino is that whatever's happened, he's not going to blame Ancelotti for throwing things away, and he wants him to go on good terms. And on his part, Ancelotti said, "I'm going to go away when the club tell me to go away."
Yeah. I mean, he's got another year on his contract. We all know that, but we also knew that he was going to do what the club was telling him to do. I don't think there's any point sacking him now anyway. They're 4 points behind Barcelona in the league. They can still win the league. I know right now it doesn't look likely because this Barca team that is not perfect by far and still has obviously the Champions League semi-finals to play. So more games than Real Madrid. Still are in control really and can afford a defeat and still be crowned champions. So, but it would be stupid to sack him now and replace him by Raúl or Solari or somebody like that. Which might be the case for the Club World Cup if they can't get by then his successor. But really, if you're Ancelotti, there's really only Brazil. You don't go to another club now. So it's either you retire or suddenly you take some time off, long time off at his age, or you think like Brazil could be fun for like a 4-year cycle, or let's say the next 2 World Cup cycle, maybe, potentially. I think if you're Carlo, that must be really appealing too. So
I think it is. I think you would have shut the story down a long time ago if it didn't have an appeal for him. From Real Madrid's perspective, my suggestion that maybe it's best if he does not go to the Club World Cup.
Yeah, definitely.
Does it only make sense if you can get a successor in to go, as opposed to a Solari or type?
Yeah, although to be fair, you're going to take half of your reserve team anyway. All clubs are going to do that. So all clubs will have a 40-player squad, half of them being kids. It's normal. It's like what you would do in pre-season. This is similar. So to be fair, if you bring Arbeloa, for example, who's had the under-19, half of his team are going to go to the Club World Cup probably. So, Arbeloa, for example, for that competition.
Are you suggesting Real Madrid are not going to take this competition seriously?
No. I think the two are different things. I'm just saying that every club are going to take. It's normal. They're going to take the same squad they would take to pre-season, because this will also be used as a pre-season time. So all of them will have a huge squad with a lot of kids from the academy. So if you have somebody in charge who knows those kids as well and is also close to the first team, especially somebody who's been there before, I think it could also make sense, whether that's Raúl or Arbeloa or even somebody like Solari, people who are already at the club. It's definitely another option, because by then Xabi Alonso might say, you know what, I don't want to go straight back in on June 10th to be ready for the Club World Cup, and then he might want to arrive after or something like that. I don't know. So it might be a bit of tricky to manage, but I think there's a few options that are possible.
I think if your next manager were an unemployed manager, and let me see if I can think of an unemployed manager that's won Champions League titles and Liga titles and has a connection to Real Madrid, coming in just for the Club World Cup, maybe coming back to the club again. Who could I possibly be thinking of? Maybe a guy who was balding and wore number 5.
There's no way.
Okay, all right.
No way Zidane comes for a month.
And then takes over the team again. I don't know. No. I'm thinking, because like what I was laying out was the ideal scenario. The next coach.
Yeah.
But I take your point. If the next coach is Xabi Alonso, or if it's any coach who's employed right now, it's a huge asking him, okay, you get 1 week off and then you're off with these guys you've never worked with. On the other hand, if you're Real Madrid, I think it's the kind of thing you, Real Madrid as a club, can ask of a coach and demand of a coach.
True.
Because you are Real Madrid and nobody else is.
And like you said, it's a preseason. It would be a bit of half a preseason, half a serious tournament. So, yeah.
All right, moving on to the positives, because again, we have to talk about the unpleasantness. There's a ton of unpleasantness. And Antonio, don't think that, we've forgotten about you, Tony. We'll be getting to you later. And thank you for apologizing. But there were moments of ridiculous skill in this game. And I want to highlight Pedri because I said Lamine Yamal was the best player on the pitch. I stand by that. Also the youngest player. But I think the reinvention this season of Pedri to that deeper playmaking position it's almost like underreported. It's almost like it's been overtaken by all the other, Rafinha and Yamal and all of Lewandowski's goal. This is a big, big part of Barcelona being able to sustain what they've done throughout the season.
Yeah, I mean, I know he loses the ball on the Mbappe free kick and the goal. I just thought he was incredible. For me, he's the best midfielder in the world. He's the best player in the world right now in pure form. Better than Lamine, better than Rafinha, better than Dembele, Salah, whoever you want. I just think he's incredible at that age to have gone through that position. And we talked about Gravenberch, and rightly so, to him in that Liverpool double pivot and how great he's done, and we didn't see that one coming. For Pedri to just dominate everything like this with the ball, without the ball, is just fantastic. The goal is wonderful because it's his ball first. It's a long one too. But everything, he's because sometimes you've got the technical ability side of it, but not maybe the physicality or the running. Let's think about it like a Pirlo, for example, who was so elegant, but don't ask him to go too much into the duels and things like that. Pedri, I think, has everything, and he's still so young. It's just wonderful to watch.
Despite being a little guy as well.
Yeah, as well. A skinny guy too, yeah.
Mbappe, what exactly was wrong with him before?
The ankle injury that he sustained against Arsenal that made him come off early. Then obviously he was suspended against Getafe, and he was not 100% apparently.
When he came on, I thought, again, we big up halftime speeches or whatever, but clearly Vini on his own up front was not working.
Yeah.
I think Real Madrid managed just one shot in that first half, something like that. But then he comes on and, okay, you can say it's easier to play against the high line. You got two fast guys up front. And I think also when you play a high line, it's one thing to cue in and when you're only queuing in on one threat, but when you have to queue in on two threats, it becomes that much more difficult.
Yeah.
But some of those moves, some of that skill, some of the goals that were disallowed and so on, I thought that was really, really special.
Yeah, I think it would have been a different story had he started. But we said it before, Gabby, and I said it on the FC show too. The front four of Rodrigo, Bellingham, Mbappe, and Vinicius just cannot work at this level against teams like that. Arsenal, Barcelona, big games in the Champions League, where Liverpool, it just doesn't work. And it's not a surprise, I think, that the second half was so much better from a Real Madrid point of view because, as we said earlier, the balance was better because Rodrigo wasn't there. It's not so much Rodrigo himself; it's that front four wasn't there. And I think if you're Mbappe, he had in mind the goal tally that Cristiano scored for his first season at Real Madrid, which was 33. He was level with him on that. That goal that he scored, the free kick, which never scored a free kick before, 34. That was very special to him. It was a game he wanted to do well because obviously, remember what happened in the Clásico at the Bernabeu where he was offside like 8 times. And that also scarred him a little bit. So I think he had that kind of motivation and desire, regardless of another final and whoever he was against. And now he scored in the 4 finals that Real Madrid have played this season, which I think in itself, I know the Intercontinental Cup is not the greatest and the Spanish Super Cup or the European Super Cup is not as good as the Champions League final, but it's still 4 finals, scoring 4 times, which I think is a bit special. So, yeah, that second half was much better with him.
In the name of Cristiano fanatics everywhere, I need to point out that Cristiano Ronaldo played as a winger in his first season.
And less games than Kylian.
And Kylian Mbappe plays center forward. So Cristiano, you're still the best. Don't worry, Cristiano, if you're watching. We're not saying Kylian is better than you, just that he happened to have scored more goals this season.
Yeah.
That's it. I want to talk about, I 100% agree with what you're saying. And in fact, we said this all season long. It doesn't bear repeating. This is a horrendously constructed squad, which was also hit hard by injuries. Obviously, we've seen it in Militao and his haircut. in the stands, you wonder, hey, look, what if that guy was on the pitch? What if Carvajal was on the pitch? I'm seeing Carvajal, by the way, seems to have gone gray in the time in which he's been injured, probably watching this team. And that's on the club. That's on the club putting this team together. We even mentioned Furlan Mendy getting injured early on. Yeah. Again, I don't say you don't want to see anybody get injured, but probably not that damaging to Real Madrid in the end, given the way I thought Fran Garcia did fine when he came on. But I use this to tie it in with Antonio Rudiger because he was also clearly not 100%. He's clearly a warrior. When I saw him bandaged up, when he looked like the mummy or something, and going back out there, clearly that's got to be a combination of adrenaline, painkillers. It says to me there's literally nobody else at that moment in the game. There's no second guessing you can do to Carlo. You can say, well, put Chouameni back there, and then what? Then I have a big gaping hole in midfield and asking a 39-year-old, right? Because there's no Camavinga either. And Dani Ceballos had come off. Not that, even the fact that Dani Ceballos is fundamental to this team at this stage of the season is evidence.
It's baffling.
And when you have your inquest, have the inquest about that. Not just why does Militao get injured? Why is Alaba's recovery not good? What did Carlo get wrong? Look at all these things, please, Real Madrid. Sure. At the end, everybody wound up so tight by the preamble, by the referee. At the end, I think what put them over the top was what looked to be a foul, or what might have been a foul or a penalty at the end, if Brahim Diaz hadn't been offside.
Yeah. But it was clear. He was offside.
He was clear there. There's no debate about that.
It was not even a controversy or anything. Then.
No, but it's like they don't see the offside, and they all absolutely lose their minds. You saw there were 3 red cards at the final whistle. One of them, Antonio Rudiger, who threw an ice pack at the referee. Now, he apologized for it. People are saying 10, 12 game ban. Does that seem appropriate when you do that?
It's between 4 and 12. That's the what the rules say.
I mean,
I don't know. I know he doesn't touch the referee, but you clearly see the object flying. You just can't. You can't throw something towards the referee to hit the referee. You don't throw it. You throw it at him to hit him.
Yeah,
you can't.
This is not like Mr. Marinaki, so of course it's entirely normal when you need to expect your to spit on the floor, and the referee happens to be there, but that's okay because it's normal. I spit indoors in my house all the time.
That was 5. What? That was 5 games, wasn't it?
That's right. Yeah.
For Marinakis, I think Rudiger is going to get 10.
Who would win a fight between Marinakis and Rudiger?
I think Rudiger wins a fight against anyone.
Oh no, my money's on Marinakis.
No, definitely not.
Because he would expectorate right into Rudiger's eyes. He would blind him, and they would stomp his head. Anyway.
And you know what? It's not. I mean, the throwing is bad. Is how possessed Rudiger looked in his eye, and the fact that somebody had to, and maybe it was
multiple people.
Yeah, because what happens then if you don't? What, he runs onto the pitch and goes at the ref? Like I just don't know, and we know his temperament. We've known him for a long time now. We know he's got that. There's that risk with him to go a bit mad like that. But I'm sorry, it's just not acceptable.
That temperament is obviously, I know it's a big sports cliche. It's what makes him great. It's also what really costs him in situations like this. How much of this has to do with the preamble, with this messaging from the club? And I was struck by something, and I really have to take. I thought Real Madrid's the statement that they put out after Bengoechea's crying press conference, where they said it was unacceptable, blah blah blah, and they said he's angry because Real Madrid TV are exercising their free speech. This is
which is the line all the time, by the way.
Yeah, this is what really bugs me.
Yeah,
who owns Real Madrid TV? Real Madrid.
Yeah.
It's not somebody else. It's not some external. It's not Marca. It's not somebody else, right? So you are dictating the line. So when they speak, they are representing the club.
Yeah.
If they even exist, it's because of sponsorship and the branding of the club. So you exercise power over them. Nobody wants to limit. Free speech does not mean you get to say whatever you like without consequences, right? There's very, very clear rules. So you are choosing to allow them to go and say this stuff preemptively. All this stuff, this is all based on, well, first of all, they put out these pretty fugazi statistics about the winning percentage of the two things. Then they put out video. Of course, Bengoechea was the referee in that game at Valencia, which Real Madrid lost. The one where Vinicius was racially abused and so on. But you're choosing to bring this stuff up preemptively in public, but you're not doing it directly. If Florentino or Butragueño or Valdano or somebody else comes out, or Ancelotti, Ancelotti wouldn't do it, I would hope, but get him to do it. Say, like, we have a problem. We don't want this referee, right? Yeah. You do it privately with Luzon or whatever his name is, and you come out and you put your face to it. This is just sneaky. It's unwarranted.
Yeah, and that's what they do regularly. We've said that before this season because it's not the first time. It's controversial and everything. This was taken to another level. I mean, they even threatened not to turn up, not to show up for the final.
I think they denied that.
Yeah, but like, you know, that was the atmosphere around this game. And we've said it before, Gab. I think even if the players are obviously kept apart from all of this, I don't think they watch Real Madrid TV. I would think so. But even if you don't want to as a player, this narrative comes into your head. So you believe what they're saying about the referee. You believe the referee is impartial or partial actually, and biased and this and that. And I think that creates some tension that this dressing room doesn't need before final against the arch rivals in a Clásico. And we've said it before that it gets them pumped, but probably for the wrong reason, because then everything is targeted at the referee all the time.
The referee and the VAR, the same VAR, by the way, who put out the video, who recalled Bengoechea after Rafinha dive and said, no, it's not a penalty to Barcelona, overturn it. If you were super cynical, if you lived in a Machiavellian world with no ethics, you would say, well, but it worked. Maybe if we hadn't done this, then maybe Bengoechea and maybe the VAR wouldn't have sent those pictures and recalled Bengoechea to the screen. I don't think that's football.
No.
I don't think that's acceptable. I don't think Florentino, and again, I don't even know if it's Florentino at this stage because the man is in his mid-70s now, right?
Yeah.
I don't know that he has the micromanaging control over the club that maybe he once had. But
there's no way those statements are not, the statements that the club website put out are not known by him before.
Then if that's the case, then Florentino, for all his faults, did not used to behave that way.
Yeah. But where do you stand about people that are saying that Real Madrid lost a lot more than just a Copa del Rey final on Saturday in terms of image, the class? I mean, it's a club that I've always said, how classy they were and the white shirt and blah, blah, blah. And all of these shenanigans from Thursday on to Saturday night. Do you believe that's tarnish them, hurt them, or you just think that we're all going to move on because there's another game and there's next season and etc. etc.
It's an interesting point. Somebody made the suggestion that maybe to the broader audience, it has between this and Vinicius not going to the Ballon d'Or and so on.
Things like that.
But there's other people who say that we live in an era where media. First of all, we don't have traditional media anymore, right? Everything is more segmented. You have club channels, you've got social media and so on. And more people live in echo chambers. And this is not just in sports, it's in politics too, right? If you're concerned with environmental causes, so you consume media that's all about the environment and you think that the whole world is blowing up. You're right wing, you're left wing, you can find your little world, right? And you can exist in a Real Madrid world in the same way you can exist in a Barcelona world, in an Arsenal world, unless you watch Arsenal TV, because those guys get unpleasant sometimes. But
that's not the clubs.
But that's not the clubs. That's right. But you can choose to consume very specific media, and it becomes very, very tribal. I don't even know how many people necessarily consume sort of the down the middle mainstream thing, and so maybe from that point they don't care. I think they will care, and I think they do care, and they need to reevaluate this because they are the biggest brand in football.
Yeah.
And there are Madridistas, but there are also neutrals who simply admire the club and want to see the biggest stars. And I think this can be a little bit of a turnoff to them. Final word on Flick and the High Line. I know this has been a thing all season long. And I've always come out and I've always said, look, very simply, it brings you benefits. He's not an idiot, right? He realizes that you're always at risk because you have Frankie de Jong trying to chase Mbappe or any other quick forward, right? He does this and he's won a treble with it. He may yet win another treble.
Yeah.
However, when it goes wrong, it's really bad.
Yeah.
Is it necessary?
I wonder, to be fair, watching the final on Saturday, I did wonder, what if they dropped 20 yards now? What would happen? Would they have the same control? Would they have the same counter-pressing?
When you're already winning. You're already winning the game, and you have all the ballers in midfield, so you can keep the ball.
I disagree that. I don't think you can turn the switch and then suddenly say, let's go and play deep now. It's either you play all the time like that or not really. I think it's very difficult, in a game like this especially, to just go like, you know what, now we're 1-0 up with 20 minutes to go. Let's just drop deeper, because I think you lose a lot of your playing patterns, a lot of the bearings on the pitch. But the counter-pressing on Saturday was incredible, really incredible. And the big difference between the two teams, which we don't need to go back again on Real Madrid, but one team ran a lot, the other team not so much. Basically, it goes down to that a lot. But I did wonder, okay, what if you start this game 20 yards, 20 meters a bit deeper? What happens to Lamine? What happens to Rafinha? Because obviously for them, they are 20 meters further away from the Real Madrid goal,
more
right?
room, but they have more room to run into.
True, but more running to do too. Still.
And more running to do, yeah.
So I think you're right. Fascinating, the pros and cons of that kind of stuff. But they're not going to change now, so let's see how far it takes them.
And I think this is part of the reason we watch football. There's more than one way to play this. I mean, tactically, one of the many reasons we watch it. And he doesn't do this because he's stupid and he enjoys taking risks. He does it because it's delivered success for him.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I am so excited to watch them against Inter, who will not, can yet win the treble in midweek. All right, enough Classico. Time to talk about the Premier League winners, Liverpool.
Well done.
Liverpool fans, we're not giving you short shrift. We've praised you all season long. It's just that news-wise, this is dog bites man. It's not man bites dog. It's not surprising. They went a goal down against Spurs and then stomped all over them 5-1. We don't need to talk about the game, I think, in any way. But I think it's worth making the point what a tremendous feat this was. And, back in 2018, there's a company called Octagon. There's like sports marketing people. They won a prize because they did some campaign around Liverpool, which had the slogan like, "This means more." And a lot of people made fun of it. I think rightly so, because ultimately to any fan, it means the same.
Yeah.
As a feat, purely as a feat, I think this title, from Arne Slot's perspective, means more than the last one that they won under Klopp in the COVID era. I can't speak for the 1980s one because I wasn't covering Liverpool professionally back then. I was a kid. But this title, I think, means more than any other Premier League title since Leicester City in 2015-16.
Yeah, I mean, especially because they celebrated this one for two titles, really. They could not celebrate the one 5 years ago because of COVID. So this one meant almost like double celebration. It meant twice more, really. And also because after Klopp departed, I think there was a lot of uncertainty for all those fans, even for some of those players, I guess, about what would come next. Nobody probably thought Slot would do this well. They've won as many points already as last season, and they still have 4 games to go. They've only lost twice in the season, and the Plymouth defeat in the FA Cup is probably leaves them a bad taste in the mouth, and the Champions League one against PSG, there was not much in it really. But in the league, they've been by far the better team in the league of their own, really.
And let's remind ourselves how we got there, right? And I've said this, but it bears repeating because I think it's incredible. So Arne Slot never coached outside of Holland.
Yeah.
The biggest club he was at Feyenoord for 3 years. He won 1 league title, 1 cup. With all due respect to Feyenoord, to Kuip, lekker, but you're not Liverpool.
Yeah.
He's replacing a legend like Jurgen Klopp. He's doing it, all this stuff we hear about, well, as a coach, you need to rebuild the squad, bring in your own players. Who do they bring in? They brought in Federico Chiesa in the summer, who played all of 37 minutes in the league, right? So he did it all with the previous players. And of course, he tweaked the system, quite significantly from Klopp's system. I mean, there's obviously a lot of elements, but he made a big tactical change. And he did it with arguably the 3 best players, all out of contract until the end. The fact that did not allow them, that did not become a public distraction or even an on-the-pitch distraction, which is really difficult to do. That is a testament to the professionalism of Trent Alexander, Virgil van Dijk, and Mohamed Salah, to the club, Michael Edwards, Richard Hughes, Billy Hogan, whoever was dealing it on the other side, the agents involved. This is really, really hard to do.
Yeah, it is.
And I think that needs to be saluted.
Yeah, and again, that they were miles ahead and miles better than everybody else too. So they could have had all these issues to sort out and to manage during the season, and winning it just about. But no, they had all of this to sort out, and yet they were by far the better team. So I mean, credit to them. Really, the season that Salah is having at his age is maybe the biggest fit of all, really, because I think Slot was a really good pick. It was a really good choice. He's got his personality, very different to Klopp. There's similarities, as you said, the way they play, but still. But to see Salah and even Van Dijk at this level at their age, when maybe we didn't see it coming, was even more impressive, I think.
Slot, of course, another one of our favorites, bald Dutch managers.
Absolutely.
Except this one's actually really good.
Yeah.
I like the fact that afterwards he gave credit to Jurgen Klopp. He even sang the little Klopp song that Klopp had dedicated to him. Again, easy to be lovey-dovey after you've won, but
sure.
Dude, you won.
Yeah.
And the other thing is he actually dropped in there. He says like, well, he's mentioned Manchester City struggled this year, and again, you're recognizing.
Yeah, which we have said all season long. The rest of the Premier League is not very good this season.
Well, some people dispute that. Martin Samuel in the Times writing that. Well, but look at where Arsenal are. Look at United. Look at Spurs.
Come on.
Okay, you do.
We talk domestically. Why are you talking to me, Martin, about results in Europe?
All right. Anyway, I thought super classy from him.
No, that's
well
true.
done, Liverpool. You've made it 20 and you're back on the perch. All right, enough Liverpool. How about some quick hits instead?
Let's go, guys.
Manchester City are through to the FA Cup final, beating Nottingham Forest 2-0. Jules, I was not expecting to see Jack Grealish on the pitch and Kevin De Bruyne off the pitch. I've given up on trying to understand what Pep is doing, but it worked in this game.
Yeah, it did work. They started so well. They scored after 2 minutes, then they scored early in the second half as well, and the game was over. I think it was made easier by the fact that Nuno got his game plan completely wrong by leaving Elanga on the bench. And I know they obviously had a very young player right back because of players not available, but still, why is Elanga not starting? Come on, please. It's an FA Cup semi-final. And then it was too late when he came on. Forest were better. They hit the woodwork 3 times in the second half, but the damage was done. And for City, I guess it's even more control to have O'Reilly and Lewis and Kovacic and Silva and Grealish as a 10. I don't think they were that great, but they did enough.
Yeah, I don't like this 4-2-2-2-2 system. I don't think we'll see it when Holland comes back.
Yeah, maybe not.
But also a lot of empty seats. Just watching on television.
The ticket allocation. Yeah. It's 3 defeats in a week now for Inter, who stumble at home to Roma and Mattia Sule on Sunday. Gab, are things falling apart for Simone Inzaghi?
3 defeats in a week when you lost 3 games in all competitions. I think it was like over 4 months before that. Heading into that Barcelona game, not a good look. Inzaghi saying like, oh, I don't want to hear about penalties not given. I don't want to hear about being tired. I don't want to hear about excuses. We just weren't good enough and we need to turn it around. Okay, fine. You've taken ownership. You've also kind of slipped in these factors, and I think they are factors.
Yeah, they are.
Jan Bisek probably should have won a penalty when Evan Ndika kind of gave him a bear hug, but it doesn't change the fact. You're at home. You look really flat. These signings over the summer, Zelinski and Taremi, have contributed very, very little. And he's kind of running on. They do look like they're running on fumes. And this is not. They lost
Pavard as well.
They lost Pavard early. That's why Bissek came on. Although this may be a bit more manageable.
It's a player less, basically. Yeah. That's what I meant more.
But yeah, it's it would be a shame if it all fell apart when you're on your way to the treble. I think it was before the quarterfinals, but Jules, you predicted Crystal Palace were going to win the FA Cup, and they beat up Aston Villa 3-0. They're in the final. I bet you feel pretty good right about now.
Well, I mean, they still have to be City now on May 17th. That's when the final will be live on ESPN. But they were outstanding on Saturday. We were at the game with producer Freddie for the coverage, for the TV coverage. It was a wonderful occasion to start with. The Palace fans were great. And you know what you're going to get with Glasner and Palace anyway, the system, how they play, who's the key players. I was super disappointed about Unai Emery and Aston Villa. Emery got the whole plan wrong. Asensio, the wide players, too slow.
No Onana.
The mistakes by Tielemans and Pau Torres at this level for players like them is not acceptable. So just a bad day at the office for Villa and a great day for Palace. The atmosphere was amazing. They have some of the best songs. I thought Adam Wharton was incredible for his age in a game like this, bossing it. Lacroix, Eze, Sarr, Mateta.
As a great goal celebration, Mateta, despite missing a penalty, I thought was phenomenal.
Phenomenal, yeah, great. So good luck to them in the final. Scott McTominay gets both first half goals as Napoli beat Torino at home to go 3 points clear, obviously after Inter's defeat on top of Serie A. Gab, this was minimalist from Conte, but enough, I guess, right?
Yeah, I guess 3 shots on target. One of them hits the post. The other 2 is McTominay poking the ball in.
Similar cross, like almost the same
almost
goals.
identical goals. Yeah. Where again, McTominay uses intelligence of size, physicality, and just reading the game, a quicker mind than the opponent. 11 goals for him this season. I am coming around to the idea that Antonio Conte is really, really clever, and that people at Manchester United just did not know how to use McTominay all this time.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it would have been a world beater, but clearly, if you put him closer to your center forward, then he can do some serious damage, create matchup problems. If you ask him to go and pass the ball from in front of the back forward and say, "Oh, big lad, go and win the ball," he ain't going to be that good.
No.
Rasmus Højlund, speaking of United, materializes in injury time to give Manchester United a share of the spoils away to Bournemouth. Jules, better late than never, right?
Yeah.
And are you as angry as Iraola about the Evan Nielsen red card?
I think it's a turning point, to be fair, to go down to 10 men with 20 odd minutes. Well, in the end, it would be 30 minutes to go. For a slip, I know there's a tackle then, but he slips first and foremost. And I don't understand how the referee can give that when clearly there was no intention whatsoever from Evan Nielsen to
VAR give it. The referee initially gave him yellow. VAR asked for it to be upgraded. Is it because intent doesn't really factor into except for handball in the laws of the game?
I know that's the law of the game. I just thought there was maybe a bit of common sense needed in that, just in that instance. But there was another controversial one earlier in the first half. So
Tyler Adams.
Yeah, the Tyler Adams one. So maybe it was kind of making up for that one. I don't know. But yeah, I felt it was a bit harsh. And in the end, Bournemouth were good at times. United were not bad, I thought, in that second half. But it's a draw in the end. Bayern will have to wait a little bit more to celebrate their Bundesliga title. But in the meantime, they destroyed Mainz 3-0. Gab Leroy Sané hit the woodwork twice and scored a goal. And it looked like he might not be leaving then as a free agent at the end of the season.
Yeah, by the way, Harry Kane, for all the Harry Kane fans out there, picking up a booking so he won't be there to celebrate the title.
He'll be there, but won't play,
Yeah. On the Sané point, he played really well. Look, I make this point. I wonder if there's a turning point about free agency, right? Sané was making a ton of money, 29 years old. They prioritized extending Alphonso Davies and Joshua Kimmich, rightly so. They stuck to their guns. They're saying, you're worth this much, right? You're worth a base salary of 10 million euros plus bonuses. And they talked and, there's a 25 million euro package from Saudi Arabia. Of course there is. There's always a package from Saudi Arabia, right? In the end, they said, okay, fine. Go take it. Go enjoy Jeddah, right? And what happened? He came crawling back. He effectively took a pay cut, a big pay cut in guaranteed money. And he's at a club where he's going to have a much bigger stage, club where he's happy. He's still maddeningly
when he plays
consistent.
Like this, he's great too. I know it's inconsistency.
I mean, I don't know that I would have offered him a contract full stop because I'm always thinking of younger players in the future, whatever. And I don't know how this impacts, for example, your chase of Florian Wirtz. But I like the fact clubs stood to their guns, and clubs need to remember there are fewer big clubs that matter than there are players out there who are pretty good on a good day, and then Sané's one of them. Newcastle United are up to third with a 3-0 win over Ipswich, who become the Premier League's third relegated club. Jules, your thoughts?
I mean, I don't know what to say.
Come on, Eddie Howe Love.
Yeah, he was back from his pneumonia. He was not fully 100%, you could tell. But this was the perfect game to come back. I mean, it was never in that. Even if Ipswich didn't start too badly, they got a red card for Ben Johnson. And after that, it could have been easily more than 3. And it's good for them. Imagine if they finished third or even just top 5. Champions League football plus the League Cup, it would be a wonderful season for them. So well done to Newcastle.
Ipswich strikes me as the kind of team that can come straight back up, though.
Do you think? And they will lose the lap. They might lose a couple more.
They lose the lap, but they'll get a bunch of million for him. And I don't know.
Yeah, let's see. Nico Jackson scores his first goal of 2025. That's right. We're almost in May. And Chelsea down Everton 1-0 at Stamford Bridge. Gab, they're back in 5th place, although Forest have a game in hand.
So the last time they played Everton, after that game, they were second. They were 4 points behind Liverpool with a game in hand. Now I think they're 22 points behind Liverpool, who do not have a game in hand. And I think this coincides with the fact that in that time period, Nico Jackson scored as many goals for Chelsea as you did, which is 0. Cole Palmer in that period scored 3 goals, but they all came at the beginning. When you have a team that is so predicated on Cole Palmer and Nico Jackson scoring goals, and they don't score, then you're going to run into trouble. Like it's not, Jules, it's not rocket science.
No, absolutely. But it's the job of the manager to find a solution, right? And he's struggling.
Wait, what solution is going to find? The Mark Gay solution?
No.
Wait, honestly, I
think Guyu is still injured, by the way.
Sorry?
I think he's still injured, so it can't be him. But yeah, no, you're right.
What, the Joao Felix solution?
No.
I mean, honestly, Chelsea need to go back and look at these guys, the 2 nerds, the director of football. And I would love to know, did you guys make these decisions? What was your plan? Were there other factors in play? Because in football, there often are. Because it's not acceptable to leave your team, leave your coach with such a badly put together squad. And Chelsea paid the price. Yeah. This was way, way back on Friday, but Paris Saint-Germain, despite playing pretty much their best 11, they get beaten at home by Nice and Francaise. And can we also give credit to Dave Brailsford and
definitely not.
No, because they're the clubs in the blind trust, of course.
Yeah, they don't watch it even.
They say the level isn't good.
Yeah, isn't good enough.
It's their first domestic defeat of the season. Not the best preparation to face Arsenal midweek, Jules. Now, from the highlights, it looked to me like Nice got absolutely battered and Paris Saint-Germain just couldn't finish.
Yeah, but one of those games, Gabby, that we've seen so many times, like three shots on target for these 3 goals. PSG at 32 shot, I think, expected goals of 3. And could score only 1. And yeah, it was the strongest 11. You're right. The team that's going to play probably tomorrow at the Emirates, or you have Barcola for Douai on Tuesday. But apart from that, it was them. And there was still a lot of good things in what PSG did with the ball. But I think it's without the ball that maybe there's not the same concentration, intensity than there was a couple of months ago. For example, Vitinha is struggling to have an impact out of possession. They concede first goals often, which is a bit of a problem. And sometimes you can come back, of course. They conceded the first one against Saint-Etienne, and then they battered them after that and won easily. But it's never good when you start being a goal down already. So there's a lot of things to sort out. Is it bad to prepare? I don't know, because they were by far the better team on Friday night. And yeah, it's not good to lose, and they really wanted to be unbeaten. It's not going to be for this season. I'm just not sure what kind of impact that has for the Arsenal game, apart from maybe being even more pumped up because you want to make up for not winning on Friday night, I guess.
Can I ask a question about this? Because Arsenal, of course, played on Wednesday. So, they will have had that longer rest period.
Yeah.
Paris Saint-Germain, though, in the last round, Ligue 1 just didn't play their midweek game. They postponed it. But this time they make them play it.
No, so you request it, and then the league says yes or no. This time
and then Nasser says yes or no.
Well, yeah, probably.
But and his puppy, right? Because that's what John Textor calls
John Textor. But this time they wanted to play, so they didn't ask for the game to be postponed. Otherwise, it would have been postponed. Just not.
So, and it kind of makes sense if they wanted to pick, because otherwise it would have been 10 days without playing.
Yeah, I think Arteta would have rather had. I mean, I know he didn't have a game because there was no game, but it's really interesting because some would want to play in between two. For example, they go to Strasbourg next weekend in between the 2 Arsenal tie.
And they are playing that game.
They are playing that game, yeah. So I don't know what's the best. I don't know what the best way of doing it is, to be fair. My boy Rondal Colomwani scores at Juventus beat Monza 2-0 on Sunday. Move back into the top 4, at least for now. Gab, Kylian Yildiz almost ruined everything, though.
Yeah, so it's at least for now, by the way, because Bologna and Lazio are playing on Monday night, as we record this on a Monday morning. Randall Colomwani playing in place of Dusan Vlahovic, who's unavailable. Kylian Yildiz, all right, we have to remind ourselves, the guy is still a teenager, as skillful as he is. But, dude, you're 2-0 up against a bad team that's going to get relegated.
Yeah.
And this guy, Bianco's pulling his shirt. It's the 3rd minute of injury time at the end of the first half. You can't go and elbow him in the face in an age of VAR. You just cannot do that. You have to get that out of your head. Let him pull your shirt. It's almost time for the orange slices in the dressing room. So he seems like a smart kid. He'll take that under advisement. He'll learn from it. And yeah, if you're Juve and Igor Tudor, of course, you're on track. It's a big 3 points. You're on track to get where you want to be. A late Valdemar Anton goal gives Borussia Dortmund a 3-2 win away to Hoffenheim. Jules, that Champions League dream is still alive. I was sure that Dortmund were going to Dortmund, but they didn't.
Yeah, but they almost did, to be fair, because they were cruising and 2-0 up.
It was they allowed Dortmund to get back. They allowed Hoffenheim to get back.
Yeah,
to equalize twice.
Twice. Yeah, and then especially the second one. That's what I was thinking of in the 91st minute. And then you thought, oh my God, they're going to drop 2 points here when they were in control of that game.
Girassi missed a penalty as well.
Girassi missed a penalty. It was saved by Baumann. And then the 95th minute, I think it was, of all people. Well, Anton with a lovely finish too.
It was a nice finish. It was funny because in that play, I think it was Girassi goes into the box. Baumann comes off his line. There's a bit of chaos. And then the ball goes over to the right-hand side, and you see Anton like steaming through, like a giant refrigerator, like a smaller version of Niklas Süle, and then coming up with a big goal, his second in the season.
Yeah, massive. And you're right, they're in for the Champions League. Definitely, it's a massive race there, like in the Premier League or in Ligue 1. Milan scored early with Christian Pulisic and late with Santi Jimenez and win 2-0 away at Venezia. Gab, were you impressed?
No, I was not impressed, Jules. I was not impressed with that. Okay, Venezia have to fight hard. They're trying to avoid relegation. They should have had a penalty, by the way, Pavlovic on Yeboah. But you take the lead, take the game to the opposition. No. Like
the back three or the back five then?
It turns into a back five, let's defend, blah, blah, blah. And Santi Jimenez scores in garbage time. And afterwards, Conceição's like, oh, well, it's always tough in Venezia. So you're not accustomed to it. And then he's like, the water, the boat. For those who don't know, Venezia Stadium, the Benzo Stadium, Venezia is on a lagoon. It's a series of little islands.
Lovely.
It's on an island itself. If you want to go watch a game there, which I recommend, it's a small stadium, it's an old stadium, but it's pretty cool. You have to go there by boat. Dude, everybody goes there by boat. What, you just discover this now, Sergio? Like, honestly, he cannot leave soon enough. I mean, I know he's going to win the Coppa Italia, or he might win the Coppa Italia and whatever, but this is just such a terrible fit. I mean, when he and João Felix both leave, it's going to be much better for me, put it that way. It's quite the comeback from Arsenal in the Women's Champions League semi-final. It's a turnaround, a 2-1 deficit to beat Lyon 4-1. Jules, Lyon boss Joe Montemurro says Lyon's heavy defeat is unexplainable. Those were his words. I appreciate he's Australian. I would have said inexplicable, but whatever. Okay. Can you help him understand?
Absolutely, yeah. Do you want me to start praising Arsenal and their manager or destroying him and his management?
Why don't you start with praising Arsenal's Italian striker or who plays for England, just because England ladies need more help?
Oh, of course. Incredible from Arsenal, the performance from start to finish. I mean, Lyon had never lost hadn't lost a semi-final since 2009. They never conceded 4 in the knockout game of the Champions League before, and especially not at home.
At home,
yeah. And Arsenal go there and literally humiliated them, because that's what happened. And they made mistakes. Lyon that led to 2 goals for sure, maybe even a third one of the 4. But still, Arsenal were outstanding. They were aggressive. They had the right mindset, the right attitude. They pressed well. They kept the ball. That was the key. The game plan from René Slegers, their manager, was to take away the rhythm of the game, take away the intensity from Lyon, who are maybe the most physical team in Europe, by keeping the ball. And for the first time this season, Lyon lost the possession game. And that's the key. And to do that, one of the genius ideas that Slegers had was to move Mariona Caldente from winger or wide player, if you want, to a central double pivot position, and she was outstanding with Kim Little on Sunday afternoon. Well deserved. Really one of the best performances I've seen in women's football for a very long time. It was fantastic.
Mariona is a player and a half, by the way.
She's amazing. And for Montemurro, he had something in that first leg that Lyon won at the Emirates last week or the week before. He changed somehow the system and the lineup for no reason. Put Hegerberg starting and dropping Van der Donk for Dumont in midfield, which made no sense whatsoever. And that's also why they lost the midfield battle. So this one is also a lot on Montemurro.
So you see, Joe, it's not unexplainable.
It's very
as you might put
explainable
it.
and explicable.
Ask Jules. Just ask Jules.
Exactly. Patrick Schick is up to 25 goals this season as Bayer Leverkusen beat Augsburg 2-0 to delay Bayern's title celebrations another week. But Gav, you have strong thought on Schick.
I do. And it's this. So last year, Victor Boniface scored, I think, 21 goals, roughly the same, right? And this year, Victor Boniface, he gets injured, is in and out, is on the bench again. And then Schick is at center forward, and he scores a ton of goals. Could it possibly be that it's the system that generates chances? And if you put any semi-competent schmo in there, you'll score a lot of goals. Now, look, I say this as a fan of Schick. I like the fact that he's taller, but he's also skillful, and he's unselfish. But I also like Boniface. But I just wonder, to me, when I see this, and this is a warning to, I think Leverkusen already know this, but I don't know if Xabi Alonso's next club, whoever it may be, could be Real Sociedad, could be Liverpool, could be Real Madrid, could be Bayern, could be. Has he played for Wrexham?
No, but he can still manage a club that he hasn't played for.
No, the gentleman's agreement says it's only.
Are we sure about that?
I don't know, but I think it's such nonsense. Anyway, but the point is, he is a system guy.
Yeah,
and you have to put, if you're going to sign him, you have to put the system first. It cannot be a Panini sticker collection. And that's a warning to one of the clubs he's been linked with.
Yeah.
No comeback for Chelsea in the other Champions League semifinal as they get stomped at home by Barcelona 4-1 and go out 8-2 on aggregate. This is a rough day for your girl, Sonia Bonpastor, Jules, whose Chelsea side were dominating the Women's Super League here in England. But at least folks can talk about how it might be Barcelona versus Arsenal in both the men's and women's Champions League.
Which will be...
unprecedented.
Unprecedented, you're right. I mean, to be fair, nobody has ever had in the same season the men and women's team in the two Champions League finals. So that, whether it's Barcelona or Arsenal who can still do it, it would be something very spectacular, very special. There was a world in between Barcelona and Chelsea on Sunday at Stamford Bridge. Not so much in the first leg, but certainly in that second leg. And I didn't see this one coming. I didn't think Chelsea would qualify, but I thought they put up a fight and maybe win that second leg without qualifying, considering the defeat in the first leg. But no, it wasn't. It was very, very comfortable in the end for a wonderful Barcelona team. We've said that many, many times. So we'll see. And what's funny about Arsenal, men and women, and potentially Barcelona, is that, Arsenal women's team would have beaten Real Madrid and the French team in the semi-finals to go to the final for Barcelona. And Arsenal's men team, beat Real Madrid in the quarterfinals, will face the French team in the semis and potentially could meet Barcelona in the final too. So the symmetry is pretty cool.
Yeah, or more likely Inter on their way to the treble.
Yeah, as well. More Chelsea and historical sliding doors, Gab. The Times reports that Manchester United were ready to sign Eden Hazard back in 2012, but chose not to because his agent demanded a €6 million commission. So they signed Shinji Kagawa instead.
Yeah, it's not just a €6 million commission. It's a €6 million commission off the books.
Off the books. Yeah.
Some background to this. And then we're going to have some fun sliding doors moments about how the entire history of Manchester United could have been different. But all of this, by the way, it's not people being mean to Chelsea. Chelsea self-reported when they did due diligence, when Bowley and Clearlake took over the club. They looked at all the books and said, hang on a minute, what's this? And they went and they reported themselves to the Premier League and to, well, not them because they weren't in charge at the time, said maybe this stuff that wasn't quite kosher. So obviously they were fined by UEFA as a result. The Premier League, because everything with the Premier League is interminable because there's a bazillion lawyers they have to pay first. I don't think they've expressed themselves yet on how they're going to deal with it. I would assume it'll simply be a fine. But what this shows was, so John Biko was the agent of Eden Hazard at the time when Eden Hazard was at Lille. I think it's Jimmy Ryan is his name, the legendary United scout, had been following Hazard since he was 10 years old or something. And they were all set to bring him to Manchester United. They were going to go, they worked out the agreement with Lille. And then at the last minute, and they'd agreed personal terms, at the last minute, this guy, John Biko, who actually met many years ago.
Yeah, me too.
And he's actually very soft-spoken. I don't know if you had the same expression.
Yeah.
I checked the guy was
really
shouty,
elegant,
blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
He comes in and he says, guys, €1 million commission, which we'll put through the books, and then you need to go and pay the rest offshore. This is according to Times reporting, basically under the table to me. Otherwise, this deal is dead. United said no. According to Chelsea's account, we don't know what Chelsea said, but Chelsea's account show that a company linked to Roman Abramovich paid 7 million euros via a company in Dubai. Now the fun thing is, Pico went to live in the United Arab Emirates. He's been extradited for unrelated charges, which he's now facing. But the amazing thing is, Pico, after this whole Hazard stuff, he became owner, president, and coach of White Star Brussels, who actually won the Belgian second division, but they didn't get a license to play in the top flight because of financial irregularities. There's a shock. Yeah. But let me just ask you this. This is the sliding doors parallel world.
What happens if Hazard goes to United?
If Hazard goes to United instead of Kagawa. By the way, it's not a knock on Shinji Kagawa. I love Shinji Kagawa, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, great little player.
But
it's not
Eden
even
Hazard.
Yeah, come on.
Like, how does the history of the Premier League change? Does David Moyes go on to win a bunch of Premier League titles?
Yeah, Van Persie and Hazard and absolutely. And Rooney probably still then. Oh my God, I would have loved to see that. Is the food as good in Manchester than it is in London though? In terms of restaurants? Yeah, you can. Okay.
With all that money, in fact, with all the money Biko gets, Hazard could just be like, Biko, get takeaway from my favorite restaurants in London.
Driven up.
Put on the back of a bike and bring it up. Eintracht Frankfurt beat up Leipzig 4-0. Jules, they stay third, and Champions League football appears a certainty. I look, it's up to you if you want to continue making fun of Leipzig. Couldn't happen to a nicer bunch of people, a nicer company. Yeah. What can I say? But maybe some love for Gino Tomlin first.
Absolutely. And we always said, don't we, it's not easy to go from being a number two, as good as you could be as a number two, and some are the best number twos and never make good number ones. And that transition is not always easy, but he did it so well. It was helped by the fact that Bichiabu got sent off quite early for Leipzig, and the Leipzig team are still a bit all over the place, and we'll obviously have a new manager in the summer, which will not be Thierry Henry, by the way, but it will be somebody else, or not Cesc Fabregas, but somebody else.
Not Jurgen Klopp either.
But Frankfurt were great, and I mean, what I feel a little bit for them is that the two games where they were not great this season were the two games against Spurs in the Europa League, and really I think they will have regrets over those two when you see the reaction after they were knocked out in that second leg at home seems to hurt a lot. But at least qualifying for the Champions League for next season, I don't think it'll be enough to keep Ugo Ekitike, because he's proven this season how good he is, and he will go to a bigger club somewhere, maybe in England even. But at least he will kind of make up a little bit for the disappointment of the Europa League.
And they lost their top scorer, Omar Marmoush, in January, which we need to mention too.
True. Wolves beat Leicester City 3-0 to move above Manchester United in the table. Gab, you wanted an excuse to talk about Vitor Pereira, really?
Because he's really, really good. And look, this is a guy, he's been around the world. He's managed, he's Portuguese, but he's managed Al Ahly, he's managed in Brazil.
He's got one of those Brazilian CVs that you love. He's got like 20 different clubs where he stayed just one season, 18 months. Okay,
they were 19th. They were second bottom when they took over from your buddy, Gary O'Neill, the notorious golf fan.
Yeah.
They had 9 points from 16 games. Since then, 32 points from 18 games. That pace, that is a Champions
6 wins
League.
in a row. Incredible.
That is a Champions League clip.
Yeah.
Not just that, but he got Jorgen Strand Larsen to all of a sudden the guy scores 1 million goals.
Yeah.
Mateus Cunha, again, maybe he would have been great anyway. I don't think anybody a year ago was talking about Mateus Cunha, 60 million, Manchester United. No. Mateus Cunha has flourished under him. They play really good football. They're above United in the table, as I mentioned. He's done a really, really good job. And sometimes you don't need to reinvent the wheel. Sometimes if you're smart, if you have a well-run club, you can find the right coach, right amount of experience, right man management, right tactical knowledge, and you can get a lot out of it. Well done, Vitor Pereira. Amin Gouiri bags a hat-trick as Marseille beat Brest 4-1 to tighten their grip on second place in Ligue 1. Jose, it took him a while to get going after moving from Rennes in January, but between him and Roberto De Zerbi's motivational methods, including a couple of days in Rome just for fun.
More than a couple of days, the whole week.
They're strengthening their grip on second place.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was a great performance for them, although Brest beat them on XG, and I thought Brest were good too. The hat-trick from Gouiri, including one overhead kick, where it's a lovely, lovely goal, but he cheats a little bit because it's one of those crosses where he chested up to do the overhead kick. So he doesn't do the overhead kick on the cross. He does it.
He lifts it up and
Yeah,
down.
so
Then
it's still
Schlemiel
great.
can do that.
It's still great, but it's not exactly the same as.
I bet Dan Byrne could do that.
Yeah, I think you could, but we all try on the beach, right? Because that's what we do,
Exactly.
not to like break our back. I thought De Zerbi was brilliant after the game because he said, we talked about him, of course, about the Retiro and the fact that they went to Rome for the whole week to prepare for this game. They're going back to Rome today to prepare for the next game, which is against Lille, which is massive next weekend. He said, "Oh, you can I say breaking my balls on that show? Is that
Yes,
possible?"
you
Yeah,
can.
sorry. You keep breaking my balls with this. You made a meal out of it because we were going to Rome and I wanted to go back home and spaghetti and this and that. He said the fact was I just wanted to have that kind of get together, that mindset, so we could be ready for the last 4 games of the season, 3 now, and make sure that we finish top 4 Champions League.
I have to say, by the way, Roberto De Zerbi is not from Rome. He's from
No.
the opposite of Rome. He's
Yeah.
from near Brescia, in a place where this time of year it's like foggy all day long. So maybe he just wanted the nice weather.
Yeah.
Can't be the food because the food is reasonable in
Of
Marseille
course.
as well. It's very
He
good.
also said I could not find anywhere to go near Marseille. So then, because we were saying why did you go to Italy? And he said, well, trust me, I looked around Cannes, I looked around Marseille, Aix-en-Provence, could not find anything. So then we decided to go to Rome, which is not too far, to be fair. Italy is not far from Marseille either.
I'm
so.
surprised Ratcliffe didn't go and lease him Nice's training ground since he's no longer
Yeah.
interested in them. It's a way to
Absolutely,
raise
because
money
of the
that you
watch.
can then funnel towards
Yeah,
Manchester
you can
United.
rent it, huh? You're right, it's not a bad idea. Gab, who is Sam Finley? Less funny story. And why are we talking about him?
So he's a midfielder from Tranmere, and the reason we're talking about, I'd never heard of him either, is he got a 13-game ban for using a homophobic slur. Now, in a game, now 13 games might be a lot, but what's extraordinary about this is the 3rd time he has been banned for using homophobic language or discriminatory language. I think actually another time it wasn't homophobic, it was something else. But dude, you
So
cannot.
he doesn't learn, doesn't
Yeah,
want to change.
and this is and he's 32 years old, and the first one I think was in 2018 or something. There's obviously something wrong with you. I wouldn't even say have a 3 strikes and you're out rule. You should be able
absolutely.
in 2025, if you want to insult an opponent, okay, which we've all played sports. I think maybe you didn't trash talk.
No,
when I played sports.
I still do now. I'm 45. Sad.
I didn't mind winding people up, but once they tell you no discriminatory talk, no racist talk, no homophobia, you don't do it. You find other ways to do it. You get creative, right? You don't. And obviously this moron can't do it. Yeah. I don't see why he needs to continue playing football at any level. 13 games, I'm sure his team are going to release him, but I'm sure he'll find another home somewhere else. But you clearly have a problem if you cannot go through life without using this sort of language.
That's terrible.
It's time! It's time! It's Texter time! Now, we told you how our intrepid hero, John Texter, made the brave and courageous choice of appointing the 33-year-old coach of Lyon's B team to take over Molenbeek, who had qualified for the playoffs in the Belgian second division. Brave choice because, all right, he fires the coach. Everybody thought he was going to appoint Ivan de Camargo, who at least is Belgian and knows the league and whatever. But no, he appoints Fofana from...
Yeah, Gaïda Fofana from the B team at Lyon. And they play Lokeren in the quarterfinal of the playoffs. So you go quarterfinal, semi-final, and then final of the playoff. They lose the first leg 2-0 away at Lokeren. I think Fofana was in the stand even. He was not even on the bench.
wait,
then I know.
why?
Yeah, I don't know. Then have a few more days to prepare for the second leg. At home, 2-0 deficit. You can overturn it. They do overturn it because they're 3-0 up with 5 minutes to go.
Brilliant.
And
they're there.
they're there. Like Lyon were there at Old Trafford. Remember that?
Yes.
John Textor was there too. And then what happened? Lokeren scored twice to make it 3-2. The ninja, Raja Nainggolan scoring, by the way.
Raja Nainggolan, who, as you know, is still playing football
somehow. To knock out Molenbeek from the promotion playoffs in the Belgian second division.
You know why I blame?
Just not a good... I mean, the Lyon team won at least. But between the Lyon women's team, who's not really Textors anymore, but still a little bit, and Molenbeek, not a good weekend.
Well, and the Europa League, of course.
And the Europa League, a few days before.
You know who I blame, though? It's not your fault, JT. I blame Vincent Labrune.
Yeah, of course. It's Vincent Labrune. It's Vincent Labrune's fault. Celtic being Dundee United 5-0 away from home to make a 4th Scottish League title in a row. Gab, bringing back Brendan Rodgers worked out pretty well for them.
It did. And look, I think again, people are going to be cynical, like, oh, you only have to beat one other team, Rangers, to win the title. And, and Rangers are a bit of a spit show right now. Sure, whatever. But he's come back and he's done it. They've also done
In
well
style, yeah, too.
in the Champions League. Brendan Rodgers, when he focuses on working and doing his job as a coach, he's actually really, really good. I think at some point, people are going to have to forget what happened at Liverpool. I mean, not forget, but stop holding it against him.
Yeah,
It was a weird period in his
young,
life.
yeah.
He acted like an absolute backside, because I probably can't say the other word, which is 3 letters in it, in many different ways. But you know what? He's moved on.
Yeah.
He's moved on. He's learned. He's grown. He did well at Leicester. He's a good coach.
Yeah.
Do you think we will see him back
No.
in the Premier League?
Not
or
for a top club.
Big Five somewhere?
No, I don't think so. I think he'll keep a point. He'll keep sending his CV, but I'm not sure.
Is this because he's burned too many bridges with his...
Yeah, and I wonder. I just wonder. I think he's good. I just don't think he's good enough for the top 5.
Wrexham beat Charlton Athletic 3-0 to secure promotion from League One, not Ligue 1, League One, to the Championship. Now, I know Brigham City were also promoted and also have American owners and celebrity owners, but they don't have a reality TV series on the parent company of this network.
Absolutely.
So I'm going to ask you about Wrexham instead. 3 promotions in 3 years. What's next?
Incredible, wonderful achievement that I believe has never been done before in English football history. In the big 5, in the top 5
Wimbledon,
professional.
maybe?
In the 5, I don't know. I didn't think so.
I don't know, but
yeah, maybe. Sorry, Wimbledon maybe then, but still very rare to go 3 seasons in a row promoted is incredible. Well done to them. It was a pretty special day, although it's a bit like Liverpool. We kind of knew. I know it was a bit more tense, but we also knew it was coming. They have a wonderful squad. A squad that is definitely too good for League One, with ex-Premier League players like Fletcher and Rodriguez and Matty James and people like that. But well done to them still, and what they're building over there in North Wales. And now it's the Championship, which is by far a much more difficult league than League One, without a doubt. So it'll be interesting. We know they're looking for more investment because they're losing money, as we mentioned, I think, in a few shows ago.
Haters are going to say that these promotions were bought by somebody chucking in tons of money.
They have a big budget too.
It's often what happens.
True, up to a certain level. So let's see in the Championship, for example, if they struggle, if they don't struggle, what's the ambition, mid-table maybe for their first season, next season in the Championship? Are they going to keep the manager, Phil Parkinson? Do you go and sign Jamie Vardy? Do you go and sign Kevin De Bruyne?
Why not?
Why not? Who else from the Premier
Trent
League?
Alexander-Arnold is also free agent.
I mean, he's free at least.
Wrexham's not far from Liverpool. He wouldn't even need to move.
Amazing. And they play in red as well. So
Exactly.
So let's see. But yeah, great news for them, obviously. Lecce faced Atalanta on Sunday night in Serie A, and they wore plain white shirts with no sponsors, Gab. This was a heartfelt protest. What happened?
Yeah, and this had to do with the fact that on Thursday night, their longtime physiotherapist who worked the club for 20 years, a man named Graziano Fiorita, passed away suddenly. They were supposed to play on Friday. The game was postponed for 48 hours until Sunday. And they said, well, wait a minute. Why are you just postponing this 48 hours? They were really unhappy.
Yeah.
Because we've seen it elsewhere. Obviously, Barcelona, obviously the most notable example. That was postponed several weeks. Because somebody passes. This guy hasn't even had his funeral yet.
Yeah.
So they wore these white shirts, which, they had the name and the number on the back. On the front, no sponsor. It basically said no value, no values, no colors. And Atalanta also joined in the protest. Atalanta's ultras, as they like to do, helpfully shooting a bunch of flares on the pitch.
Yeah.
I understand. I disapprove of the flares. I approve of why they did this. This is a really, really stupid, tone-deaf call from Serie A. It made the point, but Lecce are fighting to avoid relegation. Atalanta are fighting to get in the Champions League. We don't want to give them an advantage by allowing them to play after their opponents have played. I'm like, guys, you could have done this midweek. There's no reason you could have done it. Give it a few more days. And also, until the last week of the season, teams play at all different hours anyway. So, what gives? It was really tone deaf, and They should have done better. But well done, Lecce. I think this is the right way to react. And by the way, in case you care, the game finished 1-1. Jules, this brings us to an end. But we got to come back because you know what it is this midweek. The champions. Oh, I am hyped and amped. Barcelona and Inter, both clubs on the way to treble potential. I got to stop saying that. And of course, Arsenal against Paris Saint-Germain. So we're going to be back on Thursday. Until then, love the game, love your neighbor, love yourself.